With me today is Marvin and Pavla. So, what does intimacy mean for you two as a couple?
Oh, it's our turn now.
It is awesome. Hmm.
Hmm. It's closeness in all the possible ways, in the physical sense and in all the other senses as well. So intimacy is closeness and close connection. Yeah, we talked about the word connection before. It's good close connection.
Hmm. I pretty much agree. And for me, the one thing that I would say is that the time we spend together is like a more or less conscious time spent together. That like the quality of the time
Mm.
together. That like when we are together, we are actually together, whatever that means, and not just in the same space physically. But like you said, I think it comes down to the connection.
Mm.
And what type of things build connection between you two?
For me, it's strongly actually the physical connection. So for me, it's any type of physical intimacy from hugging, caressing each other, kissing. That's kind of like very important part of it all for me.
Mm. For me, I really like when we sing together.
I love
Like
that.
we usually make music together almost pretty much since the pandemic, almost every evening.
Mm.
We have a few songs that we practice together, and I like that when we go on walks in nature. It's like having a small adventure together, and just like and we're gonna hike there, and then we take a pause, and then we have a coffee on the way.
Yeah, I like traveling with you in general.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. That kind of creates the connection because through the shared adventure, I
Yeah.
think.
So, you live together in Prague. How has the pandemic influenced your relationship in that area of the world for you?
It,
We actually can I say it?
yeah.
We actually made a great decision, which is great is a little ironic said from my point of view, to move together in one apartment during the pandemic. So we kind of, or I actually moved into Marvin's apartment. So I threw away the possibility of going to my own apartment when I want to. And so it was pandemic and it was moving in together at the same kind of in the same year.
and I was thinking, I think in the past 6 months, there were 2 days that we didn't spend in the same place. And in those 6 months, I only slept on the couch one time. That is,
Well, I think I slept on the
well,
couch
you
once.
slept 3 times, I think, on the couch.
So, how has it changed now since you moved in together? How has intimacy changed from the beginning times?
For me, the big thing was that in the beginning times, when we came together, we really had those conscious agreements to say, okay, right now I'm here and we do something together.
Mm.
And if I wanted to take time apart when I felt like shitty or down or wanted to work, I could keep that more or less hidden. So, kind of the things that I don't want to be seen with, that I think they're not so nice,
Mm.
I could just like take them to my own apartment and then feel better the next day. And that option is not there. So, I imagine we probably like saw all aspects of each other now, I assume.
Mm. Yeah. Also, the topics of our arguments changed quite significantly since then. And yeah, we talked about the actually, it was last night, I think. We talked about being together and being next to each other, that we are all day in the same apartment, kind of next to each other, but the conscious time we spend together is only at certain points during the day, and it's kind of for me, this is the difficult part, that it's kind of blurred.
Mm.
It's never ending presence of the other person, and we have to, or at least from my point of view, I have to be much more conscious about that. Oh, now I'm with Marvin. I want to, dedicate my attention to him or what we are doing together, not being on my phone, talking together actually,
Mm.
and not just like talking to the other person because he or she is there. But I talk about things that are probably completely irrelevant or uninteresting for
Yeah,
him.
I imagine this is the challenge now for very many couples and also roommates. I live with three different people and we are home all the time right now because everything is closed. So life has changed for all of us and therefore also the time we spend together changes. I appreciate you for sharing that. So you talked a little bit about these topics that have changed now when you moved in. So what are certain kind of topics that create conflict between you two?
You want to share that?
Cleaning, cooking, those two mainly now.
Yeah, basically, kind of sharing household management and
Mm.
responsibilities are the main topics.
And how do you deal with those conflicts? I imagine you might be quite honest in these situations and kind of ask for what you want or certain kind of things like this. Do you notice these kinds of tools that you would use when a conflict comes up?
Well, I know them, and I should probably say that I obviously always use them because I teach radical honesty workshops. I, of course, only do it, which is not true. So, like, I know of all the great tools, and I sometimes get carried away. Or you could say, if I get strongly triggered with a strong physical reaction, then I sometimes just start blaming you and thinking it's your problem,
Mhm.
which it probably is. But okay.
I actually, Marvin, I appreciate you for saying this because, of course, none of us are perfect. I
Yeah,
also practice radical honesty, and I try my best, and sometimes I'm petty, and
yeah.
I blame, and I go into these situations where we don't have the tools that we usually know so well. Mm.
Yeah, so, but the thing that for me actually works now better is if we don't, because I come from a background of trying to solve everything right away, which is kind of like a pit bull like focus. Now we have to solve it now, which then often gets in the way of any movement. So what helps really for me now is if, what you used to suggest, and I didn't like it, and now I like it more, is to actually take a pause.
So basically, Marvin comes from the background when he wants to solve everything right away. I come from a background where I leave and I don't want to talk at all, and I just don't. I just want to be silent about the issue and not be even like in touch with the person. So, uh, kind of at the beginning was me learning how not to leave, and now I learned not to leave. Marvin started to leave.
I love that.
I guess we are kind of just still trying to find the middle ground.
Mm.
And for me, also the radical honesty tools and the ways of kind of going through relationship conflicts, etc. I started to be at one point or at many points when I'm really triggered. I start to be completely resistant to certain phrases triggered by words I resent you for, I appreciate you for. So I completely stop listening. So sometimes we find ourselves in like locked in this like I I start hating everything that reminds me of radical honesty, and Marvin not knowing how to communicate outside of radical honesty, and we are just like fucked in the
Mm-hmm.
conflict. Yeah.
I recognize that from my own relationships as
Mm.
well. And I love it how you speak about that you learn from each other. So this is beautiful. So,
Mm.
learning to give some space, take a breather, and then also confront things when needed. So, When you have a conflict like this, what are usually the ways that brings you back into connection?
Mm.
So how is the route back from disconnection?
So, like for my personal, I imagine for me, I really like then hearing from you what's well, like it goes two ways actually. I kind of like hearing from you what's behind it, like in which ways it reminded you of something and which fears that brings up. And for me, when I do the same, when I kind of pause and instead of, for instance, just saying, now I'm mad at you for this and that, actually pausing a bit and then saying, like, where this comes from to kind of include a little bit of my history, how this is so pressing. As I sometimes use quick resentment, like say I'm mad at you, just as a way to stay in control or like to feel something kind of like a power. And for me, it's a practice to learn, mm, yeah, to see behind that or slow down.
Hmm. That's one point for me. Like hearing what's behind it is very important. Um, Also, for me, it's very helpful to see the fight from like much broader perspective of, yeah, this is just one thing that's happening right now. We will overcome it,
Yeah.
and like the underlying sensation, feeling, or idea that, oh, but we are a good team. We are, we can be maybe together whole life. Maybe no, who knows? But just kind of like this is a long lasting thing or lasting thing, and this conflict and me being pissed right now is just like one little moment of it that can be overcome and have been overcome in the past and will be in the futures. Also the physical contact for me, I calm down when we hug or when we get closer physically to each other, because when I'm really raging, I try to keep the biggest distance, not even look at Marvin, at you. And like when I overcome that point, it brings me back to connection, physical connection. Yeah.
Yeah, and it also, of course, calms down the whole nervous system. We
Yeah.
all know that it closeness brings so much, the pulse and the breathing and the whole body becomes calmer. Hmm. I appreciate you both for being willing to show us this today. I judge you both to be very brave.
Thank you. Come a little bit closer. Dim, dim, dim.
So thank you so much, Marvin and Pavla, for coming and showing up today with your honesty and authenticity. And also, in the Healing Intimacy workshops, you can choose to work on yourself and your relationship with someone that you are close with. So I invite you to look at the event section and see when the next event is happening. Thank you so much.
Thank you.